So in the past couple of days, I've seen a lot of people on my timeline debating about the best game mode for competitive Fortnite, right? People saying we miss duos, people saying trios were the best, people saying squads are trash, solos are shambles. And obviously, with all this hysteria, I'm here sitting like, hey, I need to put out some form of opinion. So here it is, right? This is my thoughts on the current game mode, the state of the game when it comes to the game mode in which we play. Now, it's important to preface this obviously by acknowledging the fact that, hey, any argument that I make is based off of perspective. Any argument that you hear is based off of perspective, right? If you hear your favorite player saying, hey, this is this, you have to remember that they are a player, so they see it from their perspective only. Now, I'm coming at you from the perspective of someone who is enthusiastic about competitive Fortnite and wants to see the comp scene in the best possible state it can be in. For all people, not just for the players. Obviously, what this means is that if you disagree with me and you're a player listening to this, so be it. But, hey, this is my opinion. And, hey, my opinion could even be wrong, right? My opinion isn't necessarily fact. But with that being said, let's just get into what needs to be said. Now, obviously, I think the main thing that should probably be addressed is the fact that a lot of people want duos back. A lot of people are advocating for duos and saying, hey, we want duos back. A lot of people are making their predictions about the next FNCS with this one almost coming to a close and saying, hey, surely it'll be duos, right? We've had trios FNCS, we've had squad FNCS. They're doing the solo cash cups. Surely we must be getting a duo FNCS next. I actually don't agree with that. I think they're going to keep it as squads. And hey, if they prove me wrong, then that would be, interesting. But I look at it from this perspective. If you look at the start of any form of competitive Fortnite event, the first time Epic ever tried to host custom games with not the pros or like at least the biggest content creators in the scene, those events back in the day were actually squads. What a lot of people don't actually remember is the fact that if you go back to the days of streamer highlights, the first couple of videos that he has on his channel, I'm pretty sure will show you that the events Epic tried to run, the customs they've tried to run were squad events. Obviously, they didn't work because it was too laggy. That's why in the EU scene initially, we actually used to play like 60-man lobby squads, right? We'd never play a full 100-man squad lobby. Now, what Epic did to kind of counter this was they downsized. The game modes for comp became solos and duos. And everyone, initially people didn't like duos. I remember back in the day, people did not like duos at all. But eventually everyone fell in love with duos. We had obviously things like Winter Royale and different type of events, earlier on within this year. We saw different people become god duos, Zex and Vinny, Saf and Zay, Mongrel and Dementos, Savage and Benji. Like, we had all these sick duos. Everybody was loving duos, right? Duo was sick. Then, obviously, Epic actually decided, hey, we're going to upscale it a bit, right? We're going to go to trios. All you duos, find a third person. We're going to make this shit trios. Then eventually, trios, happened for one FNCS. Trios was great. I love trios. Everyone loved trios. Then after trios was successful and the servers ran well for trios, they decided to upscale to squads. Squads has been running pretty fine. I'd say, I don't think there are many server issues, right? We have FNCS. I don't see people complaining about lag. Obviously, we haven't had any LAN, so I'm not too sure how squads and trios would operate on LAN. But I'm pretty sure the servers are in a decent place, better than they ever have been, right? But what people fail to realize is that, hey, wait, they've made the full loop. They started at squad didn't work. You changed the duo worked. Changed the trio worked. Now they're back at squad. This is what they initially wanted, right? I'm assuming, this is an assumption. The fact that the first ever game mode that they tried to run competitive with was squads makes me think that that's what they want for competitive. A game mode where they have squads facing against other squads. If I was to bet, I'm not a betting man, but if I was to bet, I'm going to say next FNCS will be squads as well. And I know there's going to be the people listening to this like, please say it ain't so. I don't want squads. Like, I hate squads. Squads is not the game mode for me. I don't like squads. Look, squads has its ups, right? And I think a lot of the reason that I've seen from people I've spoken to, people don't like squads because of the culture we have set up in our game. Like, I've never seen another game where people so quickly like mix and match their players and drop people and pick up new people. Like, I've never seen it like this. It's kind of crazy in my opinion. I don't understand how you can play with someone for one day, things don't necessarily work out, and then you're like, nah, I'm done. Like, I don't want to play with you. I've seen so many players like mid FNCS just get dropped by their teams or get snaked, or whatever people want to say, and it's like, it's so crazy to me. I don't know how you could even do that. Especially considering that, like, I'm pretty sure there's rules in place that, like, mess up your series points if you switch people or switch people on your team. So it's like, yeah, the scene is a bit crazy when it comes to that. Like, people are so quick to kind of move on, and obviously I think a lot of that comes to the fact that a lot of people who are playing and a lot of people who are even listening to this right now are young, and a lot of young people don't necessarily understand the value of like sticking through the hard times and trying to make things work, because you never had, a lot of younger people probably wouldn't have had similar hardships that you experienced from being in a team for a long period of time. Like, I play basketball, right? So I'm lucky. I know, like, you know, I've had years where my team, we have like just bad players and there's nothing you can do about it, but you got to stick to make it work. You don't just say, nah, I'm done, I'm leaving, I'm moving to another team. No, you like, we have to figure it out with what we have. And when the right time comes, right time in Fortnite's context being after FNCS, we find a new teammate, we move on. And another problem that we have in our scene is the fact that people don't actually understand like roles and context, right? If you are a CSGO player, it's so easy to literally find a new team, or as a team find another player to replace a player that you've dropped, because you can literally just ask for a specific role and like define your role, the role you're looking for, define the role that you play, and find people that way. Like, a lot of the time people just, you know, see someone's mechanically able and like, hey, we need to try this guy out. If you're a CSGO team looking for an AWPer, you're not going to go out and pick up an entry fragger and be like, let's play one event. You play the event, the person literally has no idea how to AWP, and then be surprised when they can't AWP. Like, that's not normal. That's not how the world works in any context. Like, you know, that's not happening. Like, when you get employed for a job, right, they have job specifications of who they want for what role and the skills in which they want. But we don't really have that in Fortnite, right? Because there aren't, you know, necessarily defined roles in which people play. Obviously, I'm not saying that we should force that narrative. It should come more natural, and I think eventually we will see it, right? But right now we don't necessarily have that. So it makes it harder to kind of build a squad or build the right team and to find a team that you fit into, which is fair enough. But it doesn't mean that squads as a game mode is a failure. It just means that we haven't found the right way to pick up players to be a part of squads as a community. People don't actually realize that squads makes the game easier to digest as a viewer, like from a viewing perspective. I've seen a lot of people say, squads is a terrible viewing experience. Once again, this is like a failed kind of conception. Like, just because we haven't found a way, the best efficient way to observe squads and the right way to view squads from an observer standpoint, doesn't mean that squads is bad to watch. If you look at it mathematically, when there's duos, you have 50 stories to pay attention to. Tracking 50 stories in the timeline of an event, like for example during the World Cup, tracking 50 stories is pretty hard, right? Versus tracking 25 stories. Because you have, you know, squads of 4, 25 stories versus 50 stories. Which one's easier to pay attention to? During the World Cup finals, most people enjoyed watching duos more than they enjoyed watching solos, because a lot of people felt like they were missing a lot of things in the solos, right? Like, so many like, you end up looking at the final leaderboard for World Cup solos, and it's like, people are like, wait a minute, what? Like, I never saw him during the whole event. How's he ended up coming 7th? Like, that kind of thing it's a lot easier to digest the game and to figure out what's going on around the map when there's less, you know, kind of entities, less people, less different stories. Which is why I think that, you know, as much as we haven't found the right way to watch squads now, doesn't mean that it's not possible, right? Like, a lot of the time, like, even if you look at ancient history, right, back in the day, before they could actually use science to explain how thunder and rain worked, people said that thunder and rain was the gods being upset and the gods are angry, so they are, you know, they're giving us rain and thunder. When actually, no, we figured out, hey, no, this is a scientific thing. It's not the gods being angry with us. So in the same way, I think eventually we will figure out the right way to observe squads, the right way to digest squads and to view it. But we just haven't yet. That doesn't mean that squads is bad as a game mode. Once again, if you actually weigh up the pros and cons of it, squads outweighs all the other game modes in reality. Squads is easier to play. As a player, you can actually get away with a lot more in a squad than you can in a duo. If you mess up within your duo, you've messed up and now the other player is screwed. Whereas in a squad, you know, there's more room for error because you don't have to rely on just one person or rely on yourself. You can rely on 3 other people, right? I think as a community, we should stop like bitching about you know, the way things are, and we should try work to fixing them. Because if you actually sit down and weigh up the pros and cons of all the game modes, squads in theory wins. The reality of squads right now, because of the, you know, the way that things are, is, hey, maybe it isn't in the best state that it should be in, But why don't we actually work towards putting it in that state rather than just complaining about the fact that it's not in that state? Let me know what you guys think of squads, trios, duos. Let me know what you think is the best game mode for compared to Fortnite and why. Obviously, I'll probably be responding to most people who answer. Be sure to tweet me and follow me at 112k on Twitter. And be sure to join my Discord. The link will be in the description below if you want to be on the next episode of the podcast. Or if you want to just interact with me and talk with me, I chill in there most of the time, all day long. So, see you guys in the next video.